Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar this afternoon, which is going to be on the 5 fundamentals of fundraising. And I'm very pleased that we're joined by Anna, Paul and Laura from the Scottish SPCA to share some insights with us about what they've learned over recent months and some of the great work that they do. A bit of housekeeping first. This webinar is being recorded so that other people can watch it at a later date. So bear that in mind. And this is a webinar function of Zoom, so you will only be able to see the panelists. The participants won't be visible. If you would like to ask a question, please put that in the Q&A function. And if you'd like to just chat, please feel free to chat. That's absolutely fine. We're going to hear from Anna Devine, who's the lead for fundraising and campaigning at the Scottish SPCA, and then her colleagues Paul and Laura will come in and we'll have a chance for questions, to open up for questions and answers at the end. So as I say, I think we've got a great hour ahead of us. Really impressed with the stuff that the Scottish SPCA have been doing. So I'm going to hand over to Anna Devine now to kick us off. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you so much, Anna. A bit confusing. That was like, now you see me, now you don't. Just want to say a huge thank you, first of all, to our lovely colleagues at the Scottish Council for Voluntary Organisations, Helen, Joanne and Anna, for organising today's 5 Fundamentals of Fundraising webinar, which we hope will leave everyone on a more positive note going into 2021, because we know every sector has been impacted by COVID, and it's important in our view that we can help each other talk about the challenges and share solutions and experiences. I'd just like to mention that in the world of animal welfare, we've been impacted in various ways, and not just by the effect on our income in areas like events and community, but massively on delivering our operations and responding to the massive surge in sick and distressed animals coming into our centres, whether that's wildlife, animals, or much of it has been as a result of the increased demand for puppies and dogs, which has fueled the illegal and very low welfare puppy trade, which I'm sure you've maybe all heard lots about in the media. So the first thing I'd like to say before we start off getting more into the fundraising side of things is to mention that if you are looking to buy a puppy, add a puppy to your family, please do so. And please ensure when you're doing so that you buy it responsibly from an assured or registered breeder. So at the Scottish SPCA, we need to raise around 16 million every year. And to put that into context, that's around £44,000 every day, 7 days a week, to sustain our operations. And believe me, we do not take a single penny of what our supporters donate to us for granted. So you can imagine when we first found ourselves in a lockdown situation, we had to think really carefully about how we were going to sustain ourselves. We didn't panic, actually. Maybe that is in our DNA, given the nature of our work. Most importantly, we did not lose faith in our supporters. Because I feel that the Scottish SPCA is a very forward-thinking and highly resilient organisation, we started planning ahead quite quickly. We adapted our fundraising and were and still are determined to sustain ourselves operationally and financially. Because we've actually lost the opportunity, or we did lose the opportunity initially, to engage with people face to face, we did, like many people on this call, on this webinar, had to find other ways to reach out to our supporters. So we developed contingency plans. Everything was written down and put into plans. Phase 1 involved recruiting e-volunteers to share our messaging. So we looked for e-communities and people that still wanted to volunteer with us, although they couldn't do it face to face. Come and join us on our e-volunteer. We've got a nice volunteer platform that we use called Go Assemble. That's helped us, and they have helped to share our messaging. We've upped our ante on our comms activity across all our media and social media platforms, and we would run tour sessions like these so we could speak to our supporters and keep it quite light-hearted, but keep them close to us. That was hugely important. We also, and very importantly, picked up the phone and started making phone calls. Now, not to ask for donations, but simply to reach out to our supporters and our key supporters. They, especially those that are a wee bit older, might be a wee bit more isolated. That's been a really humbling and important exercise, and in some cases we have been the only source of contact for people, and that work continues today. I was actually just speaking to a gentleman this morning who wants to make a Christmas donation, but he's finding it really difficult to get out to the bank. So this gentleman donates to us every year, and he's a very valued supporter, but we'll stay in touch with him with just general chit chat, phone calls, make sure he's okay. Our supporters can also now call our helpline and request a call back from an experienced colleague for a chat, and that can, as I say, can be anything about general advice, what's going on with their campaigns, just for a chat, or it could be advice about their dog or their other pets. So lots of different reasons that people request a phone call, but we're continuing to pick up the phone and keep in touch with our key supporters. Where we've actually lost income in so many areas, such as events and community and corporate, we've actually gained in others. And we think the increased engagement and the increased comms that we've started doing at the beginning of lockdown really seems to have stimulated general donations all round, which we've seen up by 80% this year, which is a surprise, but a welcome one. And another area we tapped into more than we had planned to has been trusts and grants. Being able to tap into funding for core work, we put a huge effort into this, as opposed to specific projects, many of which we can't even deliver during COVID, has been hugely helpful. And I'd urge any fundraisers on this webinar, any opportunity you get to influence funders to loosen the restrictions where they can on the criteria of how charities can spend grant funding, and try and influence them, because it's important just now that we're not tied into specific projects, but that we can spend money where it's most needed, delivering our core services at this time. Now, we continued with our campaigns. That was another area that not every charity does campaigns, but we do 4 campaigns a year at least. And our campaign income is 52% ahead of 2019 levels and 38% ahead of where we targeted to be at this time for 2020. My colleague Laura Graham, after I finish talking, will speak to you and take you through one of those campaigns, how we developed it and how we repurposed it throughout 2020. Hugely important that we were retaining supporters as much as possible this year, and retaining supporters as opposed to acquiring them is also hugely important to us. It's cheaper, so looking at all of that with Laura coming up shortly. Legacy is another area that we mustn't shy away from. At first we were like, well, we're in COVID, lots of people are losing their lives. Should we or shouldn't we talk about legacy? So we've gently gone in there, and we'll be looking at our legacy strategy more at the beginning of 2021. In the meantime, we are continuing to promote which is a nice hook for us for legacies, our free forever care service, and that's a service that provides peace of mind that the Scottish SPCA will look after your pet if you are ever unable to do so in the future. And this is something that we get asked about a lot, as people, especially just now, think about their own mortality. If they are responsible for pets, they want to know who's going to look after them if they're not around. And we've found that people really are thinking about their future and their future wishes at this time. So legacy is something that we'll be looking at really closely going into 2021. Now, we know that coronavirus has caused chaos everywhere in businesses and organisations across the world, especially as we become less hands-on and much more digital reliant. We all know that our usual events income has literally fallen off a cliff in 2021. So our events and challenges income is 38% behind where it was in 2019 and 58% behind the budget for this year to date. However, we're starting to turn that around, and my colleague Paul will take you through how we've developed and successfully delivered some great digital fundraising events and activities in 2020, and also we've got more things planned for 2021. So, what are the 5 fundamentals of fundraising for 2021? But before we discuss these, we've got a few questions for you by way of a poll. And I'd like to maybe try and answer these questions just by if you agree or disagree, and then we can run through the results at the end of the talks, and then when we run through that, we'll share our 5 fundamentals. So if you could please indicate whether you agree or disagree with these questions, that would be great. The first one that we're going to ask is, it's the responsibility of the fundraising department to look after supporters more than it is of other departments. Do you agree or disagree with that question? So question 2, if a supporter cancels their monthly donation, we should stop communicating with them. Would you agree or disagree with that? And question 3 is, I have a clear plan of action for engaging supporters in 2021. Can't actually see question 4, so I'm hoping that will pop up in a second. Oh, I just need to scroll down, sorry. Yeah. Question 4 is, we have established fundraising processes in place across the charity that everyone can follow. And question 5 is, I am clear about what our charity fundraising vision is. So I'm hoping everybody's had a wee chance to. Thanks for answering those questions, and we can discuss the answers and our 5 fundamentals of fundraising at the end of the session. So I'm now going to hand you over to my colleague Paul McEwen. Paul's a key fundraising manager at the Scottish SPCA, and Paul looks after the events, community and corporate income areas. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Anna. Afternoon, everyone. So yeah, I'll give you a quick introduction to myself. So my name is Paul McEwen. I'm the fundraising manager at the Scottish SPCA. I've been here since on an interim basis in September of last year, but joined the organisation on a permanent role from January of this year. So right at the very start of the most memorable year that we've probably had as fundraisers. Joining an organisation was at a time when there's a lot of change happening. So primarily my role covers the corporate events and the community fundraising at the Scottish SPCA. So I'm going to just run through a short presentation on what we did to adapt to the obviously the coronavirus pandemic that we've all been kind of struggling to get the grips with. So I'm just going to share my screen, and I'll bring up a presentation here for you now shortly. Just one second there. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen now, hopefully. If not, just let us know in the comments. But yeah, as I said, so community and events is primarily the area that I was looking after during this past year. So for the Scottish SPCA, primarily we're looking at a lot of our third-party events had been obviously cancelled due to the coronavirus, and so we looked at establishing more of our own events that we had to engage our supporters throughout the year. So in the past, we have had an event called Pound for Pause. So it's been going since 2017, and it had been raised about £13,000 in the first year in 2017. But the supporter journey was quite limited to purely sign up to take part in the challenge and a thank you at the end of it. And we had put little investment into the technology, particularly on the digital experience that people were going to have on that. So we made that primarily a big focus for Pound for Pause, that we would make it a very engaging and digital experience. And to do that, we've worked with Laura Muir. So anyone who knows their athletics in Scotland would know Laura. She is one of the top athletes at running in Scotland and is on Team GB. So she was supposed to be going to Japan for the Olympics, but unfortunately wasn't able to go. So she was free during the summer to help us out with that. But as well as that, Laura is also a qualified vet. So she's a great connection with our cause. So by combining Laura with the event, we were able to put together a really good event for people. We also looked at improving the technology that had a more of a supporter journey base, more of a structured supporter journey there for people to help them do their fundraising, given it was going to be a virtual event. And we made the ask very specific. So you can see there was run 30 kilometers in 30 days for Scotland's animals, telling people exactly what they need to do. So I'm just going to play a little video. Hopefully it comes through. There is subtitles on it, so if there's an issue with audio, you should be able to follow the subtitles. But if there's any problems, just let us know in the comments there. So that was the video that Laura helped make for the challenge, and obviously helped promote it when we got it started. So just to go on a little bit further then into Pound for Paws itself. So we did a lot of work in understanding our audience. Our audience is predominantly female. As you can see from the photos there, they're obviously very big animal fans, but they're also a very active audience on Facebook. So we created resources that were specifically aimed at this group of people to help them take part in Pound for Paws and how to do that as well along with your pet. We also encourage them quite a lot to share their photos and their achievements throughout the challenge, and created a Facebook group to allow people to come together digitally, since obviously they can't come together in a physical environment. And we also created incentives around the event as well, such as raising £25 in the first 3 days to receive one of the free running vests that you see there in the pictures that people are wearing. And that proved very engaging for people, and felt that they were part of a community, even though it was in a digital sense, but still it was better than not doing anything at all. So in the background of the event itself, we also had a very robust digital experience, and particularly a very detailed participant journey that people would have. So on the left hand side of the screen there, you'll see that we had a sort of a participant journey that was based throughout the whole month of August for Pound for Paws, and that was all based on using MailChimp. So we used a lot more technology there in the background to help automate that and reduce the workload as well on the team to do that. We also then had other special messages that came in from Laura Muir and came in from our animal rescue and animal rescue officers as well, from the animals that people were helping them. And as well as that, there was also a custom journey for every individual when they reach certain milestones, such as reaching a fundraising goal or reaching a distance goal during the challenge, that were specific to people, to try and make it as personalized as possible. And on the right hand side there, you can see we also made use of leaderboards. based on the two elements that we were doing for the challenge, which was fundraising and distance for the event. And then this is the results of the event itself. So I'm going to give you as much detail as I can here, but obviously you can see participants we had. We were aiming to get 500, ended up with 362. But on the fundraising side of things, we're aiming for 25,000, but we actually raised 31,000 without gift aid. So you can see there's another £5,000 of gift aid on top of that total raised. For the average fundraising target, we were hoping for £100 or 50. We actually ended up with 100. And we hadn't planned on securing sponsorship, but we were able to actually secure sponsorship as well on top of that, which helped offset a lot of the costs that we had with the advertising and with the technology that we used. And then you can see the ROI there as well was quite positive, being 7.8 on the fundraising that we were doing. Also on the feedback that we got back from people on the completing the challenge, you can also see that people give it a very high rating of 4 stars or more. I think there was only 2% there give it 3 stars, 4% give it 8, and 90% give it 5 stars. And many people would say they would take part again next year. So that's been really good for us, because we've moved now from having sort of a sideline virtual event to being a big part of the organisation. So we had a lot of staff, a lot of volunteers who'd taken part, really enjoyed it, and lots of new members coming on. As Anna was saying, we're obviously focusing on looking after the people who were looking after us at the time, but obviously having a good experience for people who are new to the organisation as well. So that's that was Pound for Paul. So I was really on the event side of things. On the community side of things, obviously that's going to be very much impacted by COVID. So we came up with an idea of how to create some badly drawn pets and ask for volunteers to become volunteer artists for a month and help draw pictures of pets. So the idea was people would submit a picture of their pets. So you can see those 2 little dachshunds on the right hand side, and we would give it to one of our artists who would have a go at doing a portrait of the pet and get it back to the person within a 2-week period. And you can see some of the results there that we had from the artists. So it was quite a fun activity that people were able to get involved with, both as a participant but also as a volunteer. And we also had some really good experience from people and the content that people were sharing. So you can see on the left hand side the story of Yogi. Yogi was actually one of the animals that was rehomed from us earlier in the year, and his owner had submitted his photo, so we got in contact with him and asked him if we would share a story of Yogi, which was really, really good to do. But also you can see lots of other people were also sharing their own photos as well, and being very proud of the artwork that they were getting back from the artists that we had. And just give you a quick sort of insight into that on the results we've seen of that. So it's just finished up last week. We were able to get 500 people to submit them. Just below that, 462. Raised over £5,000, and that's above what we were hoping. And again, the average donation was a little bit higher. And our artists, we were aiming for 100. We had 123 volunteer artists who obviously give their time through this. But also the impact has been really really inspiring for some of our volunteers who have obviously been a bit downhearted that they can't get in and help us either publicly doing collections or in our animal rescue centres, but obviously being able to put their skills to good use doing the artwork for badly drawn pets. So that's kind of a quick overview of what we've been doing over the past couple of months at the Scottish SPCA to try and keep people active in the events and community fundraising side of things.
Thank you very much, Paul. That's so interesting. I just love those pictures. They're great. I feel it's a bit unfair, the badly drawn part. Some of them are amazingly drawn. We're now going to hear from your colleague, Paul, from Laura Graham, who's going to tell us a bit more about campaign planning and delivery during the COVID pandemic. So take it away, Laura.
Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm the fundraising marketing manager here at the Scottish SPCA. A bit like Paul, I've been with the Society just over a year. I joined last November, so a couple of months in the office, and then we all got told to work from home. And in that time, we were building up the marketing team as well. So recruited a couple of new team members. So it's been interesting us all working from home, but like the rest of the world, we've all adapted so well. And yeah, so my presentation is actually pre-recorded. So I'm going to share that with you all now, and hopefully everything will work. We tested it earlier, so fingers crossed. And I'm happy to share it with anyone that wants a copy afterwards. That's fine. So just bear with me a second and I will start the presentation. This afternoon, I will be giving you a brief insight into the campaign planning for our urgent helpline appeal, a campaign that we launched just after we went into lockdown back in March. This campaign featured a beautiful rescue dog named Bella, but for the purposes of the campaign, we named her Bo. The campaign shows two potential outcomes for Bo. The first, where a member of the public phones our animal helpline and Bo is rescued. The other outcome is where no one calls for help because the Scottish SPCA does not exist and Bo is left alone. Our animal helpline is a lifeline for so many animals, and it costs around £800,000 a year to operate. We need new members and donations to fund our work as we receive no government funding and are completely reliant on our generous supporters. When preparing the campaign, we had a number of different challenges, including a small budget, working with animals and ensuring good welfare standards throughout, encouraging colleagues to appear in film because we had no budget for actors, limited times to film and capture everything we needed to meet broadcast and editing deadlines, meeting broadcast criteria without jeopardising the emotion of the film, therefore developing softer footage for DRTV and harder hitting for social media. We also had to consider the ongoing pandemic and when was best to share our campaign message. To overcome these challenges, we wrote a very clear brief with specific timelines and shared with everyone involved. We developed a storyboard so we had a clear picture of what images and footage we wanted to capture on the day. And we cleared all activity with welfare colleagues and our veterinary team. Our animal actress Bella was absolutely fantastic throughout the filming and was the real star of the campaign. A priority throughout this campaign was to involve all our colleagues across the society. Fundraising is everyone's business, and we did this by recruiting staff to take part in the campaign and using a real rescue dog to provide authenticity. We showed the viewer exactly what life can be like for animals and why our animal helpline is so important. We used a multi-channel strategy, both online and offline, to reach our target demographic. Knowing your supporter and where they are likely to see or respond to your campaign is crucial. We have previously done donor profiling to help give us these insights. Another key priority for this campaign was the return on investment. We wanted to make sure that what we invested in this campaign would be returned to us by way of new members and supporters. We filmed the ad at a society-owned property at our wildlife hospital in Alloa and recruited members of staff to play key roles. We staged the house by filling it with lots of rubbish, plastic, empty boxes, and glass bottles to create a really unpleasant environment. We also smeared mud on the windows to make the house look neglected. We took Bella for a really muddy walk before filming, and we made sure to take plenty of breaks and free time for Bella to play. I can tell you, the cleanup after filming was hard work. We did a good job of making the house and Bella really dirty. I am now going to play for you the 60-second version of our Save Bo video. Please be assured that Bella had the time of her life filming, and it's peanut butter that she's licking from her paw.
My name is Bo. I've been here since I was a puppy. I see people passing outside. I've not eaten for days, and I have no water left. Please see me. Please help me. My sore paw is infected. My skin hurts from scratching, and I'm struggling to walk. I don't feel well. It hurts. I'll just close my eyes.
Without the Scottish SPCA, what would happen to animals like Bo? We're separate from the RSPCA, who cover England and Wales only. We receive no government funding. So please, don't forget the animals.
That video gets me every time I watch it. It is such an emotive film. We turned the video into a 4-page leaflet, which we then posted online. To our members and supporters, along with doing a large door drop to Scottish households. The flyer was very visual, depicting the storyline and the 2 potential outcomes for Bo. Most recently, we've repurposed the Save Bo campaign for national press adverts, including the Daily Record, Sunday Mail and Scotsman, as well as placing ads in local newspapers within close proximity to our 9 animal rescue centres. We used a clear call to action to become a member with a £5 monthly donation and to not forget the animals this Christmas. Due to the ongoing pandemic, our use of digital marketing has grown massively. We have been running paid campaigns on social media throughout the year and are targeting people who closely match our donor profile by using lookalike audiences. We have been testing adverts by using dynamic creatives, so Facebook is selecting various combinations of our header and description and tailoring to the viewer in the hopes that it will trigger a response. Our call to action is always very clear. We are looking for a donation and taking the viewer to a specific landing page that we can track conversions. We used eye tracking technology to evaluate the artwork. It used a heat map to show us exactly where donors are looking on the form and what information is being picked up within the first few seconds. The feedback has been really useful in helping to design future campaigns. Despite the pandemic, our membership levels have remained strong throughout 2020. Our attrition rate, which is loss of members, has reduced in comparison to 2019 and 2018, meaning we are managing to retain our membership better. We have just over 49,000 active members, along with a strong supporter base who donate to us regularly. Our hope is that in 2021, our attrition rate will be at 6%, down from 9%, meaning that we are stabilising our membership, and this should enable us to achieve our fundraising and income target. Thank you for your time this afternoon, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Hi everyone, sorry about the audio partway through that. Hopefully it started working again, but I'm happy to share a copy with anybody that that wasn't able to see it just there. I don't know if I'm handing back over to Anna now or...
I'll just jump in. Thank you so much. I wasn't sure what Anna there. We knew having two Annas on this call would be a bit confusing. Yeah, that's fine. So just give me a minute. Thank you so much, Laura. That was lovely. I am just going to pull up some notes here because I have got the results of the poll. So before we jump into any questions, etc., I just wanted to go over some of the poll results and talk about our 5 fundamentals for fundraising 2021. I'm not going to go through them in the order that I asked them. I'm going to go through them in a slightly different order. So one question that we asked, one statement we made was, I am clear about what our charity fundraising vision is. I'm pleased to say that 67% of our audience tonight agreed that they were clear about that, and 33% disagreed with that. So what is your fundraising vision? At the Scottish SPCA, our fundraising vision is very clear. We want to be the most valued, trusted and chosen animal welfare charity in Scotland. And it's fundamental that as a fundraiser that you have a clear vision too. So it's great that 67% of you do have that. So this is our very first fundamental: be clear about your vision, however simple that may be, and work towards that and ensure that everyone across your organisation shares that vision. It's not your role, if it's not your role to develop that vision, then do ask your leader, whether it's a director or senior leader, what your vision is, and if they're not sure about it, then ask if you can develop that together and keep a nice clear. We've used trusted and chosen because, and valued, because really if people don't see the value in our work, will they choose us? If they don't trust us, will they choose to donate to us? So just a nice clear vision there, and we embed that vision and those words into a lot of the language that we use when we're chatting with our supporters. Another question that we asked was, it's the responsibility of the fundraising department to look after supporters more than it is of the other departments across the charity. 33% would agree and 67% would disagree. I have to say that as the Director of Fundraising, I would also disagree with that. So every charity can only exist if it's funded. Therefore, fundraising has to be at the absolute heart of every charity. So it's fundamental that colleagues across the charity are brought into fundraising. It's worth sharing your fundraising plans with your colleagues. Ask them for feedback on campaign ideas. Get them involved wherever possible. You've seen Laura discussed how our colleagues across the society were involved with our Save Bo campaign, with everybody acting in the film. There's an extended version of that ad on social media, a much longer ad where you get to see more of both outcomes. So it's worth watching if you like the video. And Laura's explained how we involved colleagues with that, and Paul also talked about our Badly Drawn Pets activity, where we had 120 odd volunteers. Many of those volunteers, including myself, but other colleagues across the society, were also volunteer artists. So it's nice. And then we do regular fundraising updates as well. So it just, everybody across your organisation should, if not doing a little bit of fundraising for you during the year or getting involved, at least be an ambassador for it. And if you can share your vision and your goals with them, at least they're prepared and can chat about it with perhaps supporters or even out with their day job. Another question we asked was, if a supporter cancels their monthly donation, we should stop communicating with them. Only 10% agreed with that and 90% disagreed with that. So that's a great result. I also disagree that we should stop communicating with any supporters. As long as we have their permission, we should never stop communicating with our supporters. We don't always know the reason why somebody chooses to cancel a direct debit, but we should continue to value them nonetheless. I can guarantee you that many of our lapsed members and supporters have made donations or bought one of our products in the last month or so. So that's fundamental. Number 3 is to keep communicating and engaging and making supporters, past and present, continue to feel valued. never ever stop communicating unless somebody's told you not to. Other question we asked was, have a clear plan of that. Do you have a clear plan of, I have a clear plan of action for engaging supporters in 2021. That's great, because 33% said they agree that they have a clear plan of action, but sadly 67% don't have a clear plan of action. So that's a difficult one, because nobody knows what's going to happen in terms of COVID, etc. in 2021. So what I'd maybe start with there is at least really trying to understand and know your supporters. You'll see that Laura and Paul both put a lot of effort into understanding their demographic, and how and when to communicate with their supporters is vital. So maybe taking a closer look at your donor profile, just grab your calendar and look at the key days that you could possibly engage, whether it's Mother's Day, a Burns Night, Easter, whatever it is. This is a big subject, and we could actually do a webinar just on supporter engagement on its own and demographics and stuff like that. But I think it's so important right now just to know your supporters. And even if it's contacting those top tier ones like we did with picking up the phone. So I would say fundamental number 4 is quite simply to keep engaging with your supporters, even if that's a week-long telephone campaign. It doesn't always have to be fundraising ask, but just engaging with your supporters and keeping them warm is vitally important. Helps you to reduce attrition. It's a lot cheaper to keep the supporters you've got than to try and find new ones, especially if they're doing monthly donations to your charity. Question 5 was, we have established fundraising processes and procedures in place across the charity that everyone can follow. And I can't remember the outcome of that one, but I think we had split on that one. So I'm just going to go into the right hand really does need to know what the left hand is doing in a charity. So any lack of established processes means that the supporter journey won't be all that it can be. So every person who takes an action to support your cause should be being thanked and being kept on a brilliant supporter journey. So it could be something, it could be a process as simple as when a person walks into your building or does a Facebook fundraiser for you. What is the process for thanking them? Is it mapped out? Is there an infographic that you can create and share with colleagues? Is there a supporter journey mapped out? So fundamental number 5 is to ensure that your fundraising processes are mapped out and shared. And even if you've got to start with something really, really simple, it's certainly still a work in progress for our teams at the Scottish SPCA, but it's something that we know will help enhance our supportive experience and keep our supporters with us for longer, and ultimately help us get to that 6% attrition rate that we want to get to. So just want to say thank you for answering those questions, and hopefully those 5 fundamentals will be helpful for you. We're all in it together. If anybody has any questions for us following this webinar, out with the questions today, we'd be happy to answer those less formally. We do have some more questions that Anna Fowley is going to ask us. So I shall hand back over to Anna Fowley and we'll answer some of the questions that have already come into the webinar. So thank you.
Hi, welcome back to me. That's a bit weird. I haven't got those questions, Anna, I've just realised. So you've got them in advance. So it would be really, so what I'll say now is I've asked in the chat, but also we'll say now is if you have got anyone who's on the call just now, if you've got questions that you'd like answered right now, or even that we can follow up on, please do pop them in the Q&A function. But we have had a few questions in advance that I'm going to ask my counterpart here. This is so weird. I've never been on a call with another Anna like this before. I'll ask other Anna to start us off on that. Sorry about that. You're on mute.
Sorry, right, okay. There's a few questions that we got sent in advance, so I'll just run through them. There's also a few statements, so I might like to refer to some of the statements as well. Obviously, there's content there that's important to people, so we might still cover it. Has the SPCA team structure changed during the pandemic, and if so, what is the new structure? I don't know if Paul's still there, but it'd be great if Paul could maybe chat, because that's the only area in our fundraising team where we repurpose some roles. Paul, do you want to give a wee quick overview on that?
Yeah, I suppose obviously I've mentioned already the community and events side of things was obviously had a big impact there on the work of the team. So we did restructure the team there to become more of a digital focus as well. So the community fundraiser roles, we had adapted them to become supporter care roles, and to be able to train up the guys on the community fundraising side of things to become more supporter care roles that kind of covered all of the different aspects of the digital experience that our supporters were now having to experience, rather than the face-to-face activity we're doing or anything we're doing with supporter groups. And that there helped us then obviously deliver Pound for Paws and then Ballydrawn Pets. So in the background, the supporter care officers have become really a very important role there. So yeah, the community fundraising roles have sort of those changed over to supporter care. We'll see what the future brings on the community fundraising side of things, but yeah, that's where we sort of made those roles a bit more adaptive and a bit more easier to apply to the different types of fundraising that we're having to do now.
We also got asked about how we chose what to target, what to concentrate on in terms of fundraising according to the size of our organisation. Now I've founded a small charity, so I know how difficult it is starting something from zero base. So there'll be people on here that are maybe working for smaller charities as well. We very much tried to stick to the plan. One of the other questions we got asked, what did we focus on when we couldn't do what we normally do? And Paul's, I think, already answered that question. But for some of the smaller charities, I would actually focus on the engagement side of it with the current supporters as well, and just have a plan in place to create leverage from those supporters, because you can always, if it was a business, you'd be looking at your existing customer base to drive customers to it. So, and getting testimonials, if you have got a great experience, getting the feedback that Paul was showing you, some of the feedback that we've had, sharing all of that, it's the best thing you can do is to keep in touch with your current supporter base and give them a brilliant experience, and really work on it. And you're better to doing one event brilliantly and getting great feedback from it than to try and panic and do too many things and spread yourself too thin, because it will absolutely drain you. And I mean, I have to say, I've been really fortunate. I've had an absolute brilliant team to work with. Laura and Paul and their teams have just been absolutely unbelievably fantastic and resilient. So and it's keeping those spirits up, and just, you know, don't put pressure on your teams too much to come up with lots of different ideas. Sometimes less is more, and we've found that. So if you are a smaller charity or a bigger charity, do what you can do well and focus on what you can actually control. We can't control what's happening with third-party events, for example. So we're focused on what we can control, and we will build on that. We can control the comms to our supporter base, so that's one of the areas that we're focused on as well. Hope that answers that question. Another question we got asked was, are there any special methods to raise funds during these challenging times? Again, everybody's gone digital, but doesn't mean to say you can't pick up the phone. If you are a larger charity or a smaller charity, you might have high net worth individuals. That's an area of fundraising that's very important. You need to speak to them and keep them close to you as well. So we were also asked about trust fundraising, not any specific questions, but just people saying that there were a few people saying they were concentrating on that. I touched on that in my own presentation, and there's areas, there's Funding Scotland website that you can look at to see if there's any trusts there that would fit your charity purposes. And there's another website called Funds Online. I would have a look at that. And there's one called Charity Excellence. We subscribe to some of these, and we use those to help us identify trust funding. Again, trying to influence trust to let go of fund. Don't be frightened to ask if the criteria says we don't do this or we don't do that, or you've got to spend it a specific way. We've actually gone back and asked some trusts to adapt, let us spend money in a different way that they would normally infringe on us. So, and they've been really, really helpful. So don't be frightened to ask trusts to adapt a little bit to help you get through this pandemic. Lessons learned was another comment that was made. There's so many lessons that we've learned. I couldn't possibly go through them all today, but I think we've all learned our own lessons. And I think teamwork is probably the biggest lesson, how important that is, adaptability, and just being, I don't know, human. You know, we're all human. We might be managers and directors and chief executives, etc., but we're all human. I have to bring my wee Doug on a call every now and again, run about daft, barking in the background. Paul's got young children. Laura's wee toddler joins us on regular Zoom calls. So just chill, just be supportive of each other. And you know, I certainly, when I've been in other charity roles, I'd welcome smaller charities to come in and have a chat with my team, whether it's about how do we do corporate fundraising, how do we do X, Y, or Z. We're all in it together. So if you want to send us an email separately, pick our brains on stuff, wherever we can, we'll help each other. And I just hope that people have found this really helpful. I don't know if there's any other questions in the chat that...
There's nothing coming in apart from there's one there from Jane Miller. I think that's for you, Paul, just to remind us what that was, the Pines for Pause website was. I think it was that one that you were talking about.
Oh, was it to watch the video again? Is that what it was? So Pines for Pause, the website, we had that active for August only. So I think around about mid-August we turned off that part of the website, so we won't actually find that on our website now. It'll be back again maybe next June or July. That we'll probably bring that back. But yes, we'd only it's one of the events within our portfolio that we have, so we only make it active within that period. So you won't find anything now on that. But if you want to pop a question in the chat there, I can happily answer it. But yeah, if the video is certainly are all available there, apart from on YouTube today, which I was trying to get to share, which seemed to be the worst day to try and do that. But on Facebook, you can find that link there to the video for Pines for Pause.
Can I ask a question since we're coming to the end? So is there something that you did just because we were in this pandemic situation, that you just did it because in the absence of anything else, that actually worked really, really well and you want to keep? Just by sheer chance?
Definitely the phone calls, I would say. I think we'll probably keep that going, and we'll probably look for a way that we can continue to utilise our helpline. What we did, Anna, we have a magazine, and we put a letter. We actually printed it. We printed a letter within the magazine because, like a lot of charities, your demographic's going to be older women. Usually, it's more women, but they're not always online or using the internet and stuff like that. So we printed that letter in the magazine, thinking, well, maybe people will see it, maybe they won't. But we've had a decent response from it. So we've got one colleague that it does make all the difference. Even if she's doing 2 or 3 calls a week, it makes a difference. And just really looking, I would say that we didn't really look closely at doing stuff like that before the pandemic, because we could get out and about in our communities. We had supporter groups, etc. going. But we probably underestimated maybe people aren't as able-bodied even to get out to community things. So I would say that we would definitely keep that going in some capacity, and be able to keep taking calls if I can help it via our helpline for anybody that might be feeling it. And it's, we never maybe appreciated just how much people's pets mean to them. I mean, Sharon takes phone calls from people, makes phone calls and hears about everything. You know, and it's sometimes, as I said, it's the only voice that they hear. So yeah, I would definitely keep that on, and I'm sure some of the stuff that Paul's been doing as well. We've got a lot more stuff lined up. That's not the only thing Paul and Laura have been working on. They've got tons of other things as well. So anybody wants to pick the brain at a later date, then feel free. But yeah, there's probably stuff that Paul would want to keep, or maybe badly drawn pets, which turned out to be amazingly drawn pets.
Yeah, I think definitely the badly drawn pets would be a good one, and not just on the fundraising side of things. I think just on the engagement, that both from a volunteer perspective and from our supporters, be able to get involved in doing something when they didn't really have the opportunity to do that right now. So it worked quite well.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Okay, is there anything from you, Laura?
we've been making much better use of our data. We've been actually, taking the time to look at what data we have, what information, trying to better understand what media channels our donor is consuming, and just trying to be a bit smarter about how we're planning things out and taking the time to actually plan in advance. This year has just been completely different. We had to completely overhaul our strategy, but I'm hoping 2021, we've got that clear plan that Anna was talking about. So yeah, I just can't wait to put it into action. It's going to be a really busy, but I'm sure successful year. So I would just recommend that everyone takes the time to sit and just plan out what they want to do and what messages they want to share, what they want to achieve.
Yeah, that's great.
I'd just add to that. I'm going to just pop something in the chat that somebody's asked about websites. Those websites that I added were talked about were for trust funding. So there's maybe one missing there. I would add as well that we've probably done more of than that we never done was haggling. Great deals from our suppliers. We've haggled the life out of everybody, haven't we, Laura?
Yeah, definitely had the sales hat on more, negotiating deals down, trying to get the best price and best quality for money.
Maybe we should all join forces and haggle together, and we get a really good deal from the newspapers and that. And,
definitely.
Well, that's a really good segue into the question that has come in on the Q&A, which is, have you initiated any new collaborations or partnerships or networks as a result of the pandemic, or have you been approached to collaborate?
Not on a fundraising, not from a fundraising perspective, we haven't. Operationally, that's a different kettle of fish altogether. Yes, we have. However, I have created they haven't asked us, but we've got our tartan that we developed last Christmas, just before last Christmas, tartan product, and the animal welfare tartan. It's not called the Scottish SPCA tartan, it's called the animal welfare tartan. So we've developed a partnership with the RSPCA. So the RSPCA are a separate charity from us, massive, one of the biggest in the UK. So we're actually, they're selling the tartan and we've got a commission deal with them. So that's the only collaboration we've done, but we could effectively open up that partnership as more of a commercial partnership with any other charity that wanted to sell it. Probably want to be an animal welfare right enough, but there's no reason why they couldn't sell that and make a commission from it as well. And they were really interested in that model because we'd already set up the hands-free fundraising model for distribution for the scarf, so it saved them having to buy in. At the time, nothing was moving in charities. So if you've got somebody that's already got an e-commerce sort of solution set up, then that appealed to them because they didn't have to touch a single thing. It's all been fulfilled, etc. So that it was really appetizing for them. And there was other charities that were interested in doing it. So if this does continue, and I don't think there's any we should have any short-sightedness on COVID. I think we have to assume that it's going to be like this for a while. Then that is a deal that I think if you do have good e-commerce just now, for instance, then why not get it working brilliantly and reach out to other charities that maybe in your sector that could sell on your behalf, and we just split the commission so you can increase the volume of your product.
Absolutely, I think that's very sound advice. And I'm aware of the wider collaborative work that Scottish SPCA does around puppy farming in particular, but on the actual campaigns work, and it's so impressive, really. And I know that you guys have kind of led the way in a lot of that. So that's us kind of coming to the end now of our hour. Thank you very much to all three of you, Anna, Paul and Laura, for your contributions. And thank you very much to everyone who's participated in this website. It will be available on our YouTube channel to look back on, and we will follow up with everyone who's participated with answers to questions, resources and all that kind of thing. So thank you very much, and we'll look forward to welcoming you to another webinar in the future. We've got one on Brexit on Wednesday. I bet you can't resist that. I know, how depressing. But thank you very much, and have a good rest of the afternoon.
Thank you, guys. And everybody have a wonderful Christmas and a wonderful 2021.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.